Good evening, members of the Orting School Board, Orting staff, and members of the public. As a governing body elected by voters in the Orting School District, board members are sworn in by an oath of office to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Washington, and all local statutes, as well as its own board policies and procedures. A board member has enormous responsibility to carry out the duties in a democratic harmony situation and in collaboration as a talented member of a team of 5 elected officials. It is truly a very delicate endeavor indeed. It truly is also an honor to serve as a school board member. The single most important duty of the governing school board is to be financially accountable to the public for a balanced general operating budget, its oversight of the fiscal resources within the budget, and one that is subject to an annual independent third-party state audit of all financial transactions. Given this enormous responsibility, the Orting School Board must carefully consider staffing levels, related compensation and benefits, bargaining agreements with unions and unrepresented staff. Further, the Orting School Board approves the purchase of all equipment, tools, textbooks, furniture, buses, trucks, food commodities, instructional materials, technology equipment, office supplies, athletic equipment, sports team travel, professional development, travel, and much more. Everything that makes a district run smoothly is conducted by the board of directors. The bottom line is the board must approve or it doesn't get purchased or happen without the board's approval. They are the ultimate authority in a school district. This evening, I'm requesting the board's permission to return after the April 28th levy election with 3 or 4 proposed budget scenarios for the 2020 and 21 school year. Why? The Orting School District, like the other 294 school districts in the state, does not receive enough money from the state legislature to operate our school district with our present staffing and student programs that Orting School District currently offers. To supplement hiring more staff and fund athletic programs, for example, the state legislature has granted each school district the authority to submit a special levy to voters for the programs that the state will not pay for. Simply put, if school districts want more staff, club advisors, textbooks, computers, and athletic programs, for example, the state's position is go ask your local voters for the additional funds to provide additional teachers, classified staff, athletic programs, etc., for example. Don't ask us, ask your local taxpayers. It is a local decision. As you are aware, voters narrowly rejected the February levy election by 11 votes. With the previously approved 2-year levy expiring in December 2020, the Board of Directors is now asking voters to decide on April 28th to renew or reject the additional levy revenue for the next 2 years. As you are aware, recently the governor has vetoed some $78 million in K-12 education funds projected for the budget, with the possibility of more to come due with revenue uncertainties in county, state, and federal revenue collections. In an effort to maximize the needed time to possibly prepare for a major overhaul of the 2021 budget, I recommend the district tentatively prepare for a board work session on Thursday, April 30th, noting that the board work session meeting may be postponed depending on the outcome of the election. Please note that most districts that have passed their school levies in 2019 and 2020 have not firmly developed or publicly announced their 2021 annual budgets. It is clear, however, that Orting voters will decide the level of school funding for Orting students in the next 2 years. The voters' decision on April 28th will therefore determine the resulting action that the board must take by statute to pass a balanced budget for the 2021 school year and notify affected staff no later than May 15th. Finally, again, I'm requesting the board's permission to prepare several budgetary options for their consideration in lieu of a single proposed budget that does not provide options. I believe it is in the best interest of the board to fully deliberate viable remedies and options subject to available revenue projections. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tony.
At this time, I'm ready to answer any questions that you may have or hear any comments the board members have.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No questions. I just, I appreciate the opportunity to look at multiple options for our budget. We have a lot of important work to do and a lot of tough decisions to make. Hopefully, we will pass the levy, and they will not be quite as hard as I imagine they will be if we don't pass it.
And I would just second exactly what Carrie said. No questions, just wanted to really let you know, Dr. Tony, that I appreciated you thinking of this kind of platform and involving us instead of just a one budget, here you go scenario. So I appreciate the inclusion.
Thank you.
And I want to reiterate what both ladies just said, and thank you for your letter, and thanks for thinking about having the work session on April 30th if we need it. I like the pre-planning so that it's ready if we need it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
I also would like to piggyback on those guys and say, thank you for the opportunity to have 3 different scenarios where we can pick and choose, or we can pick and choose and build one that'll be best for the district.
Thank you.
Not hearing any further questions, we got to move on to a discussion of the board calendar. Any questions?
No.
My main question on the board calendar is, everything's on it still germane given the school closure for the remainder of the year? Or are there other things we should be focusing on?
That's a good thought, George. I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's some, obviously we have the policy reviews that are on the calendar because we're required by board policy to review them. And the reports, we're required annually to receive the reports, on a regular scheduled basis. So those things I don't think we should move away. I guess I would want to look more at the calendar and see which things we could move. But I think the bulk of it is things that we really were obligated to look at on a regular basis each year.
That is correct. What's on is things that the reviews and stuff that we have to look over because of board policies. But I'll take a look at it, take a closer look, and stuff we don't need, we'll pull off.
I was more looking at the things like, although I think it's important to continue to recognize staff that are still engaged to deliver services to our students at the normal operating procedure. I'm not sure student character heroes are appropriate to continue to, there's no one to nominate them. In the year progress reports, it would seem to me that instead of the progress reports, we have to figure out what we're doing between now and the end of the year with grades and everything else. It's something where I wonder whether everything on there is still what we should be focusing on.
I think we'll dive into it a little bit more once we find out what's actually going on. Then we'll bring it back once we just and take a look at it afterwards.
And we could.
Yes, when I looked at it, I was like, not sure some of these things are going to actually take our time right now, and are there other things that we should be put on? But if the answer is we have what we need to have on it. We don't need to modify it. Then I can live with the calendar. It was a curiosity.
Yeah. And we can even look at on a meeting by meeting basis, because George, you're right, I want to make sure we're leaving time for other important topics that we have to discuss. But I also don't want to, because whatever we don't do now is going to load up the calendar later. And so if we're able to tackle some of these things just as we go, that'd be great. But we could even look at it on a meeting by meeting basis. If there's something that we need to postpone in lieu of some other more urgent topic, we can do that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think Carrie's thoughts on that seems really logical.
Okay. All righty, we'll bring it back and take another look at it. Next thing, we'll move into reports. The levy update. Dr. Tony, that's you.
Yes, yes. Well, I think I got a yes from the board based on the comments that we now can move forward. The cabinet and I can begin looking at some options for the board to consider. Certainly, the results of the levy election on the 28th will be very guiding to all of us. We hope that the tentatively scheduled meeting for the 30th does not have to be fulfilled. And I just really am hoping that our community, our voters really become educated on the importance of this local levy. I believe that there needs to be a real sense of urgency in all of our voices as we connect with people to educate them on how much we rely upon the additional staffing and the special student programs that are provided. I know that the promotional campaign is doing a very good job with their end of the work. Our work on the information campaign is being guided by many people on cabinet, including Kara. And at this time, if Kara has any comments, I'd be happy to allow her to say a few words if she's able to do that.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm happy to chime in and just give you an update real quick. I think all of you have seen the social media campaign that we've been running, State Funds versus We Employ, and now we're getting to layer those videos in. And we have shot one with Matt Carlson talking about safety and security, and I'm actually meeting with Clementina Perez next week, and we're going to film a message in Spanish to reach our Spanish community as well. And that was actually Dr. Apostle's idea, so thank you for that. That was great. And yeah.
I love that idea. Good job.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that next week on Friday, and so we'll push that up, which will be right in the middle of when people have their ballots. Starting on Monday, everybody should be receiving in the entire district, not just the city of Orting, the levy mailer that was sent out that shares essentially the same photos and the same information that you've seen online. We just want to keep pushing that message home. And then of course, we have our website up and running with the submit a question form, and we're really going to focus on and sprinkle in every message, letting people know that we're here to answer their questions, that they have a place online that they can submit questions to, and even they can just call or email me, and I can filter those questions to where they need to go. So that's kind of what we're doing and where we're at with our information campaign.
Tara, I'm glad you brought up about people asking questions, because one of the things that people have been saying to me is, if we have questions, where can we go? And I've been emphasizing that they should email the school board, email Dr. Tony. So if you get emails from people, I've been encouraging them to do that, because I've been telling them, I know some people voted no as a protest, but a protest doesn't really tell anybody what your issue is. And so I've been telling them, if you have an issue, let us know so that we can work on it.
Yeah, definitely. Engaging our community members in that two-way dialogue is super important. And I would also, direct them to the website. It's ordingschools.org/levy 2020. And a lot of commonly asked questions are answered on there as well.
Okay, I'll be adding that to my dialogue at senior time at Safeway, which I'm getting lots of questions at.
I think I need to take a walk with you at Safeway, Kathy. I'd like to join you.
It's senior shopping time, Tuesday and Thursday. I go about 8 o'clock, and somebody stops me either outside or in the store every time I'm there and asks me about the levy, and I stop and we talk. And so and Tara, I would like to pass out flyers on cars like we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've already ordered more from Dan in town, so I will make sure that you get those.
Excellent.
Well, members of the board, everybody is very busy. We understand how urgent this election is. And the bottom line is voters will decide on April 28th what the board must decide after the election.
So if no more question, we'll move to the employee.
Actually, I think we have one more thing on the previous action items. We have the public records request form we never talked about.
On the which one are you talking about?
Calendar review, there were two documents, the board calendar and the public records request summary.
Okay.
I'm noticing on the public records request summary, we have an active request. How long do we have to respond to these?
Hey, Bonnie.
So as the public records officer for the district, we are currently in a different state where we still do need to be responsive to requests, but due to the COVID-19, we're not able to get into the office right now to pull documents and things of that nature. So we are given a little more flexibility in that area.
Okay, we might want to add a note to the status on that to kind of explain why it seems to be taking longer than normal. I know we normally fill them in 7 to 9 days, but I noticed the one we have active has been open for 16 days and has no notes on it other than what's being requested.
Right, so when we receive a public records request, we legally have to respond within 5 business days as to when we anticipate to fill that request. Some requests are filled, we can fill within those 5 days if it's something that we can get to rather easily. Other requests, we have to put out a couple months because it takes longer, there's more people involved, different departments involved. And so we cannot always process in a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, I wasn't recommending that we should have, or implying that we should have already responded. It just seems like it would be a good place for a note to say, we're working on it, but given the complexity, it's going to take longer to respond, or some status on it.
I think that's
it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Bonnie, I'd like to just share with you that the left side of my screen where the working agenda is usually located, it's dropped off. And so all I have is a camera of everyone. And so I don't want to mess with my computer at this time. So if you'll just help guide me through the remaining agenda. I think I know the sequence, but I just want you to know that it's dropped off.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tony.
You bet.
Is there any other questions on that? Nope. All right, Debbie.
Okay, well, good evening. I want to talk a little bit about the employee engagement survey. This is not the first time that we've talked about the employee engagement survey, and I want to assure you that this is an item that will continue to come back to you because it's important. It's continuous improvement, and it's something that will be ongoing as we strive to get better. Just to kind of hit a basic recap, we're now in our third year of doing the employee engagement survey under this method. We have a 2-week window that opens in the fall, and we do the survey so that it's divided by 4 schools, as well as 4 departments, with the 4th department being all of central office. This year, the board challenged us and said, hey, what are you doing to incentivize people to participate? Because we, in year 1, had 81% participation. Then we had 73 last year. And as you know, we had 69% this year. So we did add that on our goal setting document, which is in your public content. And when I looked through there, the types of things that I noticed are that staff would be interested in having a competition. So across buildings or across teams, there were some cute notes in there about a potential pizza party or something, or people seem to like chocolate. So to answer your question on some of the incentives, those were some of their ideas. In addition, people just want to know that change is happening. They don't want to be told, they want to feel it. They want to see it, and they want to feel that it's apparent. So that was something that came through in that area as well. And then they really want different options for being able to take the survey. We know that every employee has access to a computer, but they don't all have their own computer. And so we need to be thoughtful over this next year before we launch the survey again on, do we have a computer lab during their workday where we can allow them an opportunity to go in and have time where they aren't feeling pressured to have to get off the computer so the next person can join them. When I went through the goal setting templates, I did notice that there are strengths that we've talked about before. People in Orting like each other, and they feel like people are helpful, and they really like the teamwork. They also are committed to kids, and that's always good to hear. It doesn't surprise, I don't think, any of us that there's continuous opportunities for growth. And among those are we continue to hear communication is important, effective communication. And one of the things that we are doing differently this year is we're utilizing the key drivers. So in the past 2 years, we just took the low-hanging fruit, the part that said, or maybe not low-hanging, but the most obvious. If it said that my supervisor is supportive and that was a very, very low percentage, we know that needs to change. But we were just focusing in on that. And what we learned this year through this survey is that there's what's called key drivers. And so, for example, I had one pulled up for central office. One of the key drivers talks about communication needs to be consistent and transparent. So we really honed in on those key drivers, and that really drove how some of those goals were developed. And then I also know that there's been some curiosity in how this really, when we talk about percentages, like against what, if 30 people finish the survey, what does that mean in relationship to how many employees we have? And what I can tell you is when we looked at the percentages across the district, I'm looking at a document here that I have with the numbers on it. We noticed that only 50% of our classified employees took the survey this year, and 78% of our certificated staff, but 100% of our non-represented and our administrators. So that's an area where we had a little bit of change, and we can figure out ways to identify how to encourage them to participate in the survey. We also added some dates on the goal setting template that you may notice where it says FA for formative assessment, kind of an instructional term. And really it's check-in dates, check-in points where we can go back and we can just, as supervisors, determine, are we hitting the mark or do we need to redirect to reach our goal? And as we continue to reach each one of those goals, we're going to tackle the next one. And so it's not just in isolation doing one thing and going, great, we've got it. Nope, this is continuous improvement, and it's important stuff. So that's what I wanted to share with you tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have for this.
Actually, I had a comment, and I shared this with Tony and Carrie before. That I looked at every single building and transportation facilities, all those, and every one of them, we scored low in communication. And that is one of our district's 3 goals. So I think if it's a consistent low area that we need to think about that as a district. The other one was professional development, and I was going to ask if we could think about perhaps surveying our employees and find out what kind of professional development do they feel they need, instead of just doing one size fits all for a group that's as large as the teacher group, where you have new teachers as well as master teachers, to try and find out what people's needs are in professional development. And I think that would also help us, because we would be communicating also that we're concerned, we want to hear that. So there's kind of like even though it hits both of our strategic goals, it also hits them both in the same survey. So that's just something I thought maybe we could talk about in the future, because it seems like a consistent issue throughout the district.
And Kathy, we can in addition to the talk, we can act. And that's just probably the most important thing we can do. I love looking at attitudinal data of staff, because we are in the people business and it drives our work. And so you can expect us to continue to come back and talk about this and act on it, more importantly. And that's what will make this district a better place for our employees, and will move this district forward.
I totally agree, and I know George and I, at our meet and greet at the Haven, we heard a lot about communication, and all of us in our Listen and Learns, we heard a lot about communication, and so I think that that's really important for us to look at that and act, like you said.
I'm encouraged that this is going to be an ongoing monitored progress, because to be honest, when I looked at the overall results and then the individual building results, I had some concerns about the health of the district. Primarily, if more than 30% of your employees choose not to participate, I don't think that's a very good sign. And then just on the last section of it, where it was the engagement index, where about half the employees who even bothered to take the time to respond said they would recommend the district to friends to work at. If only half of our employees of the 70% that responded would say, hey, come work here, I don't think that's a very good sign from a health perspective.
Well, go ahead, Debbie.
I was going to say that's a solid point, and it really does prove that we have a lot of work to do. And as I said earlier, we really need to be authentic about that. It can't be lip service. We need to be our best to continue to move forward on behalf of kids. And so I know Tony's really serious about making this information matter and using it to our advantage, so we can be the great district that we believe we are and that we want to be.
I feel like we're on track now as a school district. We're getting there to not just have that one-way communication, which I feel was kind of the major complaint. It's not just communication, it's the engagement that follows, it's the action that follows, it's the listening with your head and your heart, not just, the whole the blankness that can sometimes come across when you're not engaged. If you just talk that you're going to communicate, but you don't feel that relationship, then there's a whole bunch that gets lost in translation for people. And I feel like these steps are really on the right track. I'm encouraged by it as well, just like George said.
Well said, Melissa, well said.
Thank you.
I think for me, first, I appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into the goal setting at each of the buildings and within each of the departments. And there's work that will involve all of us as a result of those goals. And so for me, I'll be definitely looking forward to the updates on how that work is going, but also making sure that as we're going through it, that we're reflecting on, okay, if the goal was to improve communication, do our employees feel like they're being communicated with? Because sometimes, like, you have this idea about communication, set this goal, but that goal might not solve the issue necessarily, or accomplish everything that people are hoping and intending and expecting to get out of that goal. And so I hope as we continue to move through this, that we reflect on that and adjust if needed, or broaden the scope or change the goals, so that this, whatever feels like good communication, that we can keep striving to address that specifically with each group. Because the goals it feels simple, for all of the emotions that went into the survey responses that we did get, and all the emotions that are still out there from people who didn't participate in the survey. I still want to serve them, and I still want us to try to meet the goal of good communication with them. So I just hope that this analysis and evaluation and the work that goes into this is continuing, as George said, on an ongoing basis.
One of the things I wanted to add was I've talked to some people that go to the transportation meetings, the facilities meetings, and they really appreciated that their suggestion of having an administrator come to their meetings. I don't know how often it is, Chris. I know you were one of the people that did it. That they appreciated that change happened quickly, and that administrators have already started attending those meetings, and they felt like their communication was more valued because of that. So I appreciate the quick action on that one.
Thank you, Kathy.
I think we're on the right
Thank you,
track.
Debbie.
I think we're on the right track, so just keep it up.
When's the next check-in on this?
Each of their locations identified their check-in date, and so I can compile those and make sure that we're very purposeful about them. And I know our supervisors, whether it's building principals or department supervisors, and Tony leading central office as that team, will be really cognizant of those things. And it can't just be something on the shelf.
Yeah, and some of them might need to be adjusted because of social distancing still not happening.
Yeah.
But, I still have the important role of communicating throughout this time, and so I don't want to necessarily postpone anything too far, because we still have that job to do. So.
And it might even be more so now that we're remote and things are finding them more challenging, or different opportunities. It might even be more so important that we're really staying on top of that, so that people do feel engaged and they do feel part of the team and feel valued, and they're not left without being, not feeling like they're part of the team as work continues to move forward. So yeah, I think we have a real opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
What I'm hearing is the collective opinion of the board is that we accelerate and drive this forward and make it a priority in this district, and consider that done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you are correct.
You're welcome.
Is there any more comments? Are we going to move on to long-range planning?
Yes. Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I figured out, Tony, how to do this. I have three devices rather than just one, and so I figured out how to do this inefficiently. And so, you bring up, and I'm into segues a little bit, but one of the things that I did do is take on the transportation support this year. And I've learned a tremendous amount regarding bus stops, because everybody wants their bus stop changed. And I learned a lot about budgeting. I've learned a lot about replacement schedules and so forth in regards to a long-range plan. But what I also learned from that visit that you brought up, Kathy, with your daughter sitting there right in the front, was that I was introduced as a guest. And being introduced as a guest, and I said to him, you know what? That's the first problem, is that I was introduced as a guest. And so I said that was going to change, and then the coronavirus happened. And so I've been there about 2 to 3 times a week, checking in, because they're doing a lot of work right now regarding their work. I know Tony and I have spent some time giving out lunches. And so it is about, number one, listening, but it's also knowing that you care and you have a little heart involved. And so it goes a long way. And I'll explain a little bit about the coronavirus update a little bit after this. So this is a 3-year plan. It's a 3-year transportation plan. And you've seen it and you've read it. Right now, we have a brand new supervisor after having Barb for almost 30 years. Megan has done a tremendous job of streamlining some things, and she's been a great partner. And she's also one to tell me that, Chris, that's a really bad idea. And so I really appreciate that about her. But she also stepped up to the plate. And she steps up to the plate not only to figure out how to transport kids with special needs, but also to figure out how to make things work for kids who are having a difficult time on the bus. And so she's been a wonderful partner this year, and a great hire for the district. We've also just hired Anthony, who's a full-time mechanic. We're real happy to have him on board. He lives in Orting. He wanted to work in Orting. He's a single dad who works here, and he was just a wonderful hire, a great teammate. And so in regards to transportation staff, we have 2 brand new people to our team. In regards to our fleet, we have 25 buses. We have 21 motor pool vehicles. And this year we actually surplus 7 vehicles and sold that big single axle Crown bus, which I actually thought would be kind of fun after I retired. But I'm gonna
Is that the Twinkie bus?
No, it's the Crown bus. It's like a Twinkie bus, not the Cranky bus. But we sold it for a resounding $6,600, which isn't bad.
Oh, wow.
And we also been, over the past 3 years, been purchasing 2 buses a year, and we just purchased more recently another small special ed bus because of the significant increase in the number of preschoolers that we have. Part of our objectives over the next 3 years is to continue to provide safe transportation, standardize our fleet purchases. And by that, I'm talking about having the same vendors to purchase our fleet from, so we can standardize the parts that we have. We can standardize the purchasement of pieces and parts, or whether it's and also to have the same people actually work with us to help support our fleet.
Great idea.
So we've equipped all of our buses with cameras to improve safety. We've also started equipping our vans. That was one of an issue this year in regards to safety, was the fact that our vans that are going out to special schools outside the district didn't have any recording devices.
Oh.
And so 2 of our vans now have cameras on them in order to help support those drivers, because we've had some significant student behavior issues on those buses, those vans, and so we wanted to make sure that we had recording devices in there. We've also recently had believe it or not, we had a Washington State Patrol inspection on the 18th and 19th of March, right after we closed. We were at 95%. The previous one, we were at 100%. We had one bus that had difficulty with I believe it was something to do with some electronic devices in the particular bus. We do have a spare bus capacity of 20%, which is the industry standard. And we needed, so let's say, okay, I guess that's it on that. Our goals to improve, in which we haven't done a really good job with over the next 3 years, is identify mandatory and optional professional development for our staff. Really, the only staff development that we do currently are the mandatory staff development opportunities. It's time to really help build the capacity of our staff. And you had mentioned it before, Kathy, in regards to having some bus drivers have been there for 20 years, and we have other bus drivers that have been there for 2 months. And so what do those optional professional development opportunities look like? We also talked a little bit, and you've seen the work that we did in changing how parents pick up students at PTR this year. And that's improved our bus pickup in the morning. And then we're also going to be taking a look at our industry standard in regards to
Chris, you're going in and out. Hello, Chris.
How we actually align our department to industry performance levels. So what we're going to end up doing is taking a look at the industry performance.
Chris, it's really difficult to follow your presentation because you're coming in and out, and we're only picking up about
and that
40% of what you're saying.
This is the average bodies on a bus run. And really this year, which we've improved in,
Chris.
We went from $1,169.
No.
Can somebody tell me email
cost per
or
rider,
text?
up to $1,111 in 17-18 school year. So we're actually
Chris, your microphone's going on and off.
our efficiency on our buses. And this is mainly because of our increase in the number of students on our special ed buses. So the cost is per run, not per seat. And so it's per run. And so do you have me now?
Yeah, well, we got you.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
What?
You know,
Chris,
Chris,
not talking and talking.
Chris, I think we'll come back to this report to be
Can
continued.
you hear me now, though?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I apologize.
I thought it was an excellent report.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
If I closed my eyes, it was good. If I closed my eyes and wasn't trying to line up the audio with your mouth, it was okay.
You want to hear about the coronavirus?
Let's get that and try.
No, no, I'm more interested in the buses.
President Holland, I would urge you to move this along.
Yes, go ahead. Can we,
You want to talk about the coronavirus now?
you can try and see how it works
Okay.
on this one.
Yeah, so everybody can see me now, and everybody can hear me. So real quick update.
Chris,
Yeah.
Chris, when I've had
Yes.
difficulty with my connection, principals have told me to turn my video off and just talk and just go audio, and sometimes that helps.
Okay, can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the priority update regarding the coronavirus. Two of the priorities from the governor were meal dissemination and childcare for healthcare workers and first responders. The first one is that the meal dissemination started on March 17th. That was put together by our nutrition services with Joanne and with our transportation with Megan. We came up with about, I think there's 28 stops now, 28 stops to disseminate the meals. And so far this school year, we've given out 7,759 lunch breakfasts, so 7,759.
Wow.
And then we also began the backpack program last Friday. We'll continue it this Friday.
Yay.
And we gave out 63, with support of the food bank, we gave out 63 weekend food. Well, they're not backpacks, but we had them in bags. And then we gave out, we got a donation of coloring books from Kaiser Permanente. And so we gave out coloring books today, along with community resource list for our community members who may be struggling right now. In regards to childcare, we started the childcare on March 30th, and that is currently staffed by our paraeducators and health services staff. Our health services staff screen the adults who come in, the staff and the kids coming in, and then the paraeducators staff it during the day. We have two shifts, a morning shift and an afternoon shift that the paraeducators support. Right now, we have 11 students registered. We have anywhere between 0, unless Tuesday we didn't have anybody, to 8 kids a day. And so it kind of depends upon the day. And as you know, whoever's ever worked in healthcare is that schedules are all over the place. And so as a result, we don't have a consistent number of kids each day. So those are the 2 coronavirus priority updates for the school district right now. And I'm very excited. I'll let you know is that it's very unusual to have school buses running out to all the bus stops in a community. Most places have we do have a pickup site at the middle school, but most places just have pickup at schools. We decided to do it at each bus stop. And I think it's provided a routine for all of our kids and the families in our community. I think it's more than just the food. I think it's the routine for the day. Any questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, I have just a quick question, and I think you might answer it, but I just want to confirm. You said that everybody for the child care services we're providing, you said that the children, the parents, and the paras are all getting screened?
Yeah, so when they walk in every morning, number one, we have a nurse at the front desk at the PTR gym, and they're screened for a temperature, and they're asked a series of questions prior to entering. And those questions came from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. And we also have a checklist in that we take a look at the cleanliness. By cleanliness meaning what things were washed, what things weren't. Basically we have a checklist that's completed by facilities every day and also by our health services staff every day to make sure that we've hit all the details regarding safety of not only safety of our kids, but also the safety of our staff.
Okay, good. And the staff, I'm worried about the staff. Were they provided any guidance or training on safety precautions and
Yes.
keep themselves safe?
So they were, when we first put them in, that position, we gave them we gave it to them when they first started, the guidelines for childcare from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. Every Monday, our RN, Deanna Wolf, provides training on those precautions each week to start the week. And so she does that along with, because some kids have health concerns, like to use an EpiPen and so forth. She'll also do that training as well on Mondays. So the LPNs staff it for all week. The RN does the initial training every Monday regarding the health precautions, the cleanliness, washing hands. She talks to the students. And so that's taken care of every Monday morning.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Any further questions for Chris?
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
All right. Next thing, we're going to move with the superintendent search, and that's me. Basically, after talking to consultants on the superintendent search, we propose to postpone it until January of 2021. That way we'll have better candidates when all this going on, everything was settled. Tony had gave us a verbal agreement that he would stay until we find a superintendent. Right now, they're working on the contract, so we should have something to look at around the 1st of May. His contract don't end until the 30th of June, so we should be fine about that. Any questions?
Thanks for doing that, and thank you, Tony.
Well, thank you. It's a real honor to be asked, and I'm working with some fantastic people. If it wasn't because, if I wasn't working with such a strong team, I wouldn't stay beyond June 30th. But I'm inspired, and I like the people I'm working with.
I'm seconding, just thank you for that. I know that this was something that weighed heavily on probably every single one of us as board members, that this timing couldn't be worse with everything that's going on. So I just want to tell you how grateful I am that you are not only enthusiastic and willing to, but you've just jumped in with some great gusto, and that we'll have you for a little bit longer. I think is going to it's going to speak volumes for Orting schools in our community, and I feel like you're just going to really put us on a good footing coming for the next person. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, what she said. Yeah, we just, we've appreciated, even just in this short period of time, your leadership has really stood out and helped in moving us forward. So I'm very grateful that you're willing to stay with us, and we have a lot to do in the months ahead, and I'm excited that you're on board for that ride.
One of the reasons I agreed to continue on is that I'm enjoying working with this board, and you're good people, and you really want good things to happen in Orting, and I want to be a part of that for as long as I can. So thank you.
And Tony, I want to say thank you because Tony, I want to say thank you because you jumped in with both feet, and I think you're a good fit for the district. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Speaking of that, we got one action item on the agenda. Is Tony worked on the 30th and 31st of the month, and we definitely need to pay him for those days, but it's not in his contract. So we need a motion to pay him for the 30th and 31st.
Yeah, I got it. I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended employment contract offered to interim superintendent Tony Apostle to include 7 supplemental days rather than the 5 for time served as transition into his role during March of 2020.
I second it.
In first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is board comments.
I'm trying to move my computer so you can see my shirt. I want to say April is Autism Awareness Month, and I want to say thank you to all of the teachers and paras and principals and everybody. Thank you for all of your work with our special needs students. From myself and from my family, I have to tell you, thank you. It means the world to us. So thank you. And remember, it's Autism Awareness Month. Thank you.
I have one comment. The board, when you send questions to another board member, you do not have to send it to Bonnie. You can send it directly to the board. So you don't have to send Bonnie the question. Bonnie sends it out to us. So if you have a question, please send it to the board. Bonnie. But remember, if you answer the question, say, George sent out a question. Don't reply all, because if you reply all, it's a meeting. Reply just to George.
Good
Good
clarification.
advice.
Thank you for that clarification, because I am super confused on that. I did not understand that rule, and when you don't reply all, or when you can send something out to everybody, but I think that clears it up for me. I can send out an email to everybody, and as long as you, Stanley, reply just to me, it's fine. So I don't, right?
Right, that is correct. As long as I reply just to you. If you hit reply all, then it's considered a meeting, and that's no.
Okay, thank you.
So we can cut Bonnie out, and you don't have to include Tony if it's nothing that Tony need to know. Say if you just want to ask a question to the board, you can just send to the board, and you can
Good
say
clarification.
agenda, so like agenda item. Hey Stanley, could you put XYZ on the agenda? And you CC the whole board. Tony don't need to be involved, because when we get the meeting, we'll say, Tony, we do the agenda, I'll inform Tony, we need to add this to the agenda.
And mea culpa for my past mistakes. Sorry.
No problem. Any other comments? Well, I wanted to comment, keep your prayers for the first responders. In this, I have 2 family members. My sister is a nurse at Swedish in downtown Seattle. And also my son-in-law is a police officer, that they're out there. And my sister, I'm telling her to retire. So just keep them in your prayers.
Thanks for remembering.
We will. Thank you.
Yeah, my niece is an emergency room nurse, so thank you.
If you don't hear anything, so we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you. We'll see you next 2 weeks.